Thank you. Good afternoon and welcome. I'm Jessica Tucker from the League of Women Voters, Winnetka-Northfield-Kenilworth. Throughout its history, the League of Women Voters, a nonpartisan political organization, encourages informed and active participation in government. The League has been providing opportunities for candidates seeking public office to speak directly to voters through forums. Today, the League of Women Voters, Winnetka-Northfield-Kenilworth, is hosting a candidate forum for the Village of Northfield Board of Trustees. And we thank the Record North Shore for co-sponsoring this forum. I'd like to introduce our candidates at this time. For Northfield Trustee, there are 4 candidates for 3 seats. The candidate trustees participating today in alphabetical order are Edwin Elfman, Matthew Gallen, and Andrew Yeadis. A 4th candidate, Pam Papadopoulos, will not be here today. I'd like to also introduce our moderator for today's forum, Kathy Tate Bradish from the League of Women Voters of Evanston. And I will now turn it over to Kathy. Thank you.
Thank you, Jessica. Welcome everyone to the Northfield Board of Trustees Candidate Forum. I am really delighted to be here, particularly because I love to see civic activism and participation in democracy. So I applaud the candidates and also those of you out there, whether you're with us now live or you're watching in a recording in a few days. Thank you for your participation. Your candidates have agreed to the rules of the League of Women Voters. They'll be speaking in alphabetical order. They'll get a 2-minute opener, 2 minutes to answer each question, although they don't need to take the whole 2 minutes, and 2 minutes for their closing statement. They'll finish their sentence when the stop sign goes up. And starting in alphabetical order, candidate Elfman, you have 2 minutes for your opening statement.
Hello, my name is Edwin Elfman, and I am honored to be a caucus-slated trustee candidate for Northfield Village Board. I live in Northfield with my wife, Christine, who I can't thank enough for her support during this campaign, and our young children who are 5 years old and 15 months. We are looking forward to being part of Middle Fork School next year. Since the beginning of my career nearly 2 decades ago, I have worked in and around federal government on different policy issues, including finance, transportation, and agriculture. I even worked at the U.S. Department of Transportation early in my career. I have spent a great deal of time working to create common sense solutions that benefit all constituents. I'm not afraid to reach out to policymakers and express disagreement when necessary, and I believe we, as a village board, need to push more on other elected officials to advance and protect our community's interests. I've also been very involved in our community since moving here. I'm currently an assistant football and rugby coach at New Trier High School. I also serve as the treasurer for Friends of Wagner Farm, where we raise funds to provide educational opportunities around agriculture, a cause near and dear to my heart, having grown up on a dairy farm. And lastly, our family is active at Middle Fork Tennis Club, where we've met so many wonderful friends. Northfield has many issues that need to be addressed over the next 4 years. The Hap Road project needs to go back to a citizen-centered advisory committee. I've been against the roundabout concept since the beginning. Northfield needs to have a communication system in place to contact residents when an issue or emergency arises. With Mariana's closing, we continue to see shuttered businesses and vacant storefronts in Northfield. The village needs to look at solutions to encourage businesses to come to Northfield. There is a lack of coordination among different entities in Northfield, and this does not benefit residents. I believe it is vitally important to get involved and do everything you can to improve your community's future. I'm running for trustee to ensure that Northfield continues to be a great place for families like mine to grow. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you, candidate Elfman. Next up is candidate Gallen. You have 2 minutes. Wait for the timer to let us know. Go ahead.
Thank you to the League for organizing. Serving as trustee the past 4 years has truly been an honor and a privilege. I've thoroughly enjoyed my work representing the village and residents and learning so much in the process. For those that don't know me, a bit about myself. My wife and I moved here over 13 years ago. My wife is an English teacher in Barrington. We have 2 kids and 1 very stubborn dog, Ruby. My son is a freshman at New Trier. He runs track and plays golf. My daughter is a 5th grader at Sunset Ridge. She loves theater and tennis. And as for me, I'm a lawyer. I was a federal litigator for over 18 years, but I've recently transitioned into legal recruiting, which has been a very nice change for me. As a trustee, I chair a village-wide sidewalk improvement committee. I serve as a Northfield delegate to the Northwest Municipal Conference, and I am part of a visioning group for the library renovation project. When it comes to priorities, my number one priority, and it's kind of an existential issue for me, is to strengthen public trust and confidence in the village and village board after a very rocky 2 years. Without it, any other priority, staffing, Hap Road, bringing in new businesses, or replacing Mariano's, will be much more difficult to achieve at every turn. So this next board needs to work as a team with each other and the community. And I believe I have the professional skills and perhaps more importantly, the soft skill set and temperament to accomplish this. If I am fortunate enough to be reelected, I would approach the role in the same way and manner as I have for the past 4 years. I strive to work hard, be thoughtful, ask questions, have conversations, collaborate, build strong, meaningful relationships, and use my legal training to help solve problems and find solutions. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Yedis.
Good afternoon. Thank you to the League for hosting this important opportunity for public discourse. My name is Andrew Yedis, and I'm honored to be slated by the Northfield Caucus for Village Board. I appreciate the opportunity to introduce myself and share why I'm eager to serve the community. Northfield is my home. I live near Clarkson Park with my wife Elizabeth and our 2 boys, Ben and Johnny. Since moving to Northfield over 10 years ago, I've volunteered, coached dozens of children in baseball and hockey. Beyond being a dedicated community member, I've spent the last 18 years working in Northfield as a special educator at New Trier High School. My wife also works there in their post-high school counseling department. In addition to teaching, I sponsor student government, archery, the gaming club, and I coach varsity bowling. Through these experiences, I've developed strong leadership, collaboration, and communication skills, qualities essential for a village board trustee. I'm running for village board for a simple reason. I love Northfield. It's a wonderful place to live, and I want to ensure it remains a thriving and forward-thinking community. Every village faces challenges, and I want to be part of the conversation that keeps Northfield strong. My priorities include ensuring our local government is responsive to residents, managing resources efficiently, and maintaining top-quality infrastructure and public spaces. One of the key commitments is to improve transparency and communication between residents and the local government. I believe government functions best when all voices are heard and when communication flows both ways. Residents should feel informed, and local leaders should be receptive to feedback. Thoughtful policies and open dialogue can make a real difference in people's lives. My background in education has taught me how to balance immediate needs with long-term planning. It's also given me a deep understanding of how policy decisions impact individuals and families on a personal level. These perspectives will help guide my approach to municipal decision-making. Looking ahead, I want to give back to the community that's given my family so much. I'm committed to advocating for transparency, thoughtful development, and sustainability in Northfield. My goal is to ensure that our village remains a great place for future generations while preserving the character and charm that make it a special place today. Thank you for your time and consideration. I'm excited for this opportunity.
Thank you. Candidate Gallen, you'll take this first question first. Everyone will have a chance at it. You're going over a little bit over ground that you just did, but we'd like to hear how would you narrow down to the 2 highest priority issues facing the village and the upcoming council? And what specific experience do you have that's going to help the village address those issues?
Yeah, so as I just said, I think the overriding issue for me is improving public confidence and strength in the village and between the village and the community. If we can't get that right, we're not going to get anything else right. And to me, that is the most important overriding issue. And I'd say the second, more of a, I suppose, immediate issue is getting a new store into Mariano's. It's a cornerstone of our downtown area. It obviously generates a tremendous amount of revenue. So I'd say there are a lot of other really important issues, and I'd love to talk about them, but if you're narrowing down to 2, those are the 2. In terms of increasing and strengthening the public trust and confidence in the village board, I'd say my professional skill set and my soft skills is what I've done for the past 4 years on the board. I think show that I can continue to do that. And that's, being collaborative, being actually listening to what people have to say, having a respectful dialogue, working collaboratively, being empathetic, not competing with other people, but working, as I said, sort of collaboratively. And there's a lot of other possible thoughts on that, but I think it's really about working as a team. It's putting the goals of the village above our own personal feelings about things, and those are the two issues I think are the most important.
Thank you. Candidate Yedis, 2 minutes.
Thank you. I think that there are many issues that this village is facing, but one of them that's been tantamount is the communication. Many of the villagers spoke up in their frustration with the roundabout and wanted to feel that they were better informed. They wanted to know more about what our government was doing, but they also wanted their voices heard. And I think a way that we can continue to improve is by increasing our communication. The village in the last year or so has done a great job of increasing our social media presence, trying to encourage involvement from our younger residents. However, we have 50% of our population is over the age of 50. We have to be able to reach everybody. Some of that is direct mail, but I think increasing communication, we already video and record all of our meetings. It's online and available. And I think that that's really important. The other issue is looking at how we can continue to develop and maintain our downtown area. We have wonderful, thriving businesses. We want to support them. We want to help them grow and work with them. We also want to attract new businesses. We've lost business throughout the village. We've lost businesses in our downtown area, and we've lost it on the Edens corridor as well. We need to rethink our zoning and be creative in how we attract new businesses and how we support our current businesses who are so vital to our entire community. We have many people who live in the village, who work in the village, and it's vital to us to have a thriving downtown. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Elfman.
So I'll be honest, they took a lot of good ideas that I was going to talk about as well, which I think shows how we as a slate are really working together and trying to make sure that we're on the same page on a lot of these things. But I'm going to build off of what candidate Yedis said on communication. Recently in my neighborhood, we had a water main break, and we've seen those happening more and more around different villages and things like that. But we received no real communication from the village on what had happened. Is the water safe to drink? Do we have to boil water? What do we have to do after the fact? And being the father of a 15-month-old right now, water is very important to us for a lot of different reasons when you're trying to raise a child, make sure everything's safe. So along those lines, there needs to be a better way to communicate with the residents when emergencies arise or when other issues arise. And to Andrew's point, or candidate Yedis's point, it can't just be social media. Maybe it's text messages, maybe it's emails, making sure that there's an open line of communication between the village and between the residents when things occur in the village. The other thing for me that's a top of mind issue is the future of infrastructure within the village. I just mentioned water mains. That's something we have to keep aware of. It's not, the most attractive thing to work on by any means. A lot of them are underground or not seen by folks, but it matters a lot. You need to provide basic things to your residents, making sure that you have good, clean water, that the system works the way it's supposed to work. Things like Sunset Ridge Road took way too long to get that fixed. We need to make sure that these roads are good roads for us to use as residents, and making sure that we are pushing up to other levels of government to make sure that they're paying attention to our issues as well.
Thank you. So now as we go to question 2, candidate Yedis will answer first, then Elfman, then Gallen. And after that, that's how our rotation is going to roll. And if you're confused, or if at any point you want me to repeat a question, please just let me know. This is a little bit, so focus, and I'll read it twice if you want me to. So as you consider the proper governance of Northfield and the appropriate role of the village council, comment on each of the following, how you'll be doing your decision making. What about the strategic planning? What do you see the role of advisory boards? And how do you see resident input? So, candidate Yedis, are you ready for that, or would you like me to read it again?
Do you mind reading it again?
No, not at all.
Thank
Not
you.
at all. So
The-
some of
the-
these you can answer in 12 seconds and the rest take me 2 minutes just to read. And I paraphrased, so let me see how close I get this next time around. So as you consider the proper governance of the village and the role as you see appropriate for the village council, comment on how strategic planning fits into it, how advisory boards fit into it, and how resident input fits into it.
Thank you. This is a great question. I think it's very timely given the recent board meetings and what we've heard from the community. I don't want to focus all on the roundabout, but there's many different things that have happened in this community where the village residents have felt that they needed to know more. I think it's incredibly important to get our resident voices. I'm an advocate of increasing citizen boards. We have so many talented individuals in this community that would love to volunteer and get involved. I think this is a great chance to encourage and foster involvement in our community. We've been able to knock on doors, meeting many people who want to get engaged, who want to be a part of the caucus, who want to be a part of decision making. I think we need to use our talent that we have here, look to volunteers. We've already seen many people volunteer to help rethink some of the architecture of downtown, and we want to use that skill set. I think the advisory boards are incredibly important. We have already established many different committees in the village, and we need to use their expertise. We need to rely on the voice of the people to let the people on the board make decisions for the village. We are not here to make decisions on our own. We're here to reflect the needs and desires of the village. And I think that's incredibly important and something that we need to remind ourselves on a daily basis of that importance. So thank you for your question.
Thank you. Candidate Elfman.
So I'm going to build off of what candidate Yudis was saying as well, but talk about some things on the strategic planning side of the world. I was lucky enough back in college to be part of my strategic planning for my campus, and I think that's really, it's given me a skill set over time to think not in a 1 year, 5 year time frame, but really what does 20 years out look like? And I believe the village board needs to be involved in that heavily, making sure that we are planning the village in the right way. What does it look like in 20, 30, 40 years from now? To make sure that we're setting things up smartly as time goes along. There's nothing worse than putting something together and then tearing it down 10 years later because it didn't fit whatever you're trying to do. So I believe it's a big role of the village government to make sure that strategic planning is done correctly. But I'm going to turn more to the advisory board side because we shouldn't be doing it alone. One thing I really appreciate with the caucus slated group is that we come from very diverse backgrounds. We have very different opinions on things, but let's spread that out even more. We have different groups of individuals that we talk to. We live in different parts of the village. Let's make sure that we have more and more of those residents involved in the advisory boards, making sure that their input, but on all different levels, from age, from location where they live in the village. I mean, you have North of Willow, South of Willow, of East of the Edens, all need to be involved in all of these processes going forward. It's great we have a village board with a lot of talent that's going to work together really well, in my opinion, but we also need to make sure we're bringing all those voices together at the end of the day through advisory committees by having our residents sit on these advisory committees really to represent the village as a whole.
Thank you. Candidate Gallen.
Yes, thank you for the question. So I'll answer the strategic planning part pretty quickly and say that we do have a 2040 comp plan. That plan was made prior to COVID. A lot has changed north of Willow Road. There was an emphasis on the office space, and that, as we know, office space is not something in a post-pandemic world that's as needed. So also the strategic plan talks about a roundabout, which we're not doing. So I am in favor of updating or giving the 2040 plan a refresh. When it comes to advisory committees, I support advisory committees 100%. And everything that Ed and Andrew said, I agree with. I have been very supportive on my 4 years of advisory committees. I chaired a sidewalk committee that I mentioned in my opening. I was one of only two other, I was one of two trustees, Tracy Mendrick being the other one, who supported having a committee to find the new village manager. I was very supportive of that, but the board did not agree with that. At the last board meeting, I talked extensively about the need to have an advisory committee for the Hap Road project and to ensure that that the board wasn't imposing goals and objectives onto that committee, that committee should operate as it sees fit. And I also strongly believe that we should have an economic advisory and business committee where we have residents and business owners come together to try and attract new businesses to the community. We need to leverage the power of our community network into getting more businesses here. And so in that respect, those are some of the committees, resident committees that I think that I've been involved with, that I think we should have going forward. But in my opinion, there's never really a bad time to have a committee for something, because like I said, it helps to leverage the power of the community network.
Thank you. Candidate Elfman, you'll take this next question first. Describe your vision of Northfield in terms of where you see the community in 5 years. Now, maybe you want to tell us in 20 years, but let me give you the rest of the question. What needs to happen in the next 2 years for your vision to materialize? So what's your vision of Northfield in the future, 5 years or 20 years? And what needs to happen, though, pretty immediately in order for that vision to happen?
Yeah, right off the top, our downtown corridor needs to be revitalized. It's going to, a rising tide lifts all boats, right? So if we revitalize our downtown corridor, making that a more attractive place for people to come and shop and do all the things they need to do, that helps our businesses. That brings in more businesses. But we also need to emphasize having the charm of the past included with Northfield. We do have a neat downtown, and there's so much potential there to do what we need to do. Over the next 2 years, I think most importantly, we have to figure out how the Mariano's space will be filled. That is a big space. It's right at the first intersection when you come into the main part of downtown. So that is step one. That's got to be done. And I believe it's part of a bigger revitalization plan. We really need to take all things into account as we look at going forward there. 20 years from now, I hope it's much more walkable. I hope it's set up that my kids can ride bikes from my house into downtown and use those businesses and all of those types of things. But on the front end, within the first 2 years, like you asked there, Kathy, is making sure that the Mariano space needs to be priority one to figure out how to fill that anchor part of downtown to start.
Thank you. Candidate Gallen.
Yeah, I think I agree with everything Ed said. It's exactly how I would have answered the question. Mariano's step one. I think then step two is the Hap Road, what we're going to do with the Hap Road, and let the committee sort of figure out what they want to do. And as a complement to that, the library renovation project, they are looking to build out their space. It's obviously right off of Hap Road. It's in between Hap Road and Mariano's. And that project, I think, is part of the the adding vibrancy to the downtown area. When it gets to sort of longer term things that we need for that area, I would look to the Skokie Valley Trail. When the Skokie Valley Trail is complete, it will go through the downtown area. I believe Northfield would be one of only a few, maybe one or two villages that the trail goes through the business district of. So there's a tremendous opportunity for business development when the Skokie Valley Trail is done. That's not going to be in the next 2 years, but that is something that's longer term.
Thank you. Candidate Yudis.
Thank you. This is one where it's a challenge going third. I think both Ed and Matt have made wonderful points. I agree. The Mariano's is absolutely a priority right now. The loss of that space impacts not just convenience factor for shopping, but as a special educator in the district, I personally know of 5 former students who work there. Their livelihood, their family are all impacted by this. We need to do what we can to get another grocer in there. But at the end of the day, it's ultimately up to the leasing agent. So I think we need to work with them to share the voice of what the community wants in that space. And then look back to our 2040 plan like Matt brought up before. I think it needs to be revisited. I think the beauty is we do have a long-term strategic plan in place. If you've looked at the 2040 plan, I think it's very wise. We encourage mixed-use development in our downtown area. One of the things that is a challenge is when you drive through our downtown, it's a lot of parking lots. Long-term, working with the private businesses to potentially change some of that, move them towards the street front, move the parking behind, and continue to support our local businesses. I think, like Matt said, the Skokie Valley Trail is very exciting. As a washed up former triathlete, it encourages me to get back on my bike. And I know that it's a great business opportunity that many people could move in and start a new business. A bike shop could come right into our downtown. A conveniently located coffee shop could be there as people pass through, and a location and a destination for people to ride from the city. Having read that or ridden that trail, all the North Branch Trail back to the city when I used to live in Bucktown, it would be a fantastic ride to head all the way up to Northfield, have lunch, and ride back to the city. I think we can continue to do ways to promote our current businesses and look forward to the long term. I think we need to be fiscally responsible and environmentally responsible as we continue to do that.
Thank you. Can I just say that washed up former triathlete is possibly the best humble brag I've heard in months. All right. So Candidate Gallen, you're going to take the next question first. What zoning changes, if any, will improve how Northfield works?
Yeah, so we've actually just done a bunch of zoning changes, and so I want to highlight those. So in terms of in the downtown area, we've relaxed the special use requirements for restaurants and eateries, so it will allow potentially more restaurants and eateries to get into the downtown area, which I know is what so many people in this community want. So I think that's really, really important, and that was done kind of in conjunction with the changes that are coming with the Skokie Valley Trail and the library renovation project. Again, sort of a focus of that downtown area. I'd say we might want to look at the Northfield Road corridor in terms of the next area for zoning changes. And I know the board is starting to look at that, and I think that is the next one to see if we can allow some more restaurants in there. It's just a very underutilized road. I happen to walk my dog on that area all the time, and it's a beautiful street, but it's underutilized, and I think there's a real opportunity there.
Thank you. Candidate Yudis.
Thank you. I was speaking to a long-term friend who's a female business owner in the community, and she was looking to possibly open a store in downtown Northfield and found it incredibly challenging to navigate our zoning. I've been very proud of our board in the past year or so. They've been actively looking at this, rezoning, working with our local ordinances to make sure that we open up opportunities for more businesses to come in. I think as a village, we have to be creative in how we use those spaces and how we take care of the businesses that are there and how to promote others. I think one thing that we need to continue to do is adhere to the village center design study and the design guidelines when we work with the architecture committee, local businesses and residences, and residents, to ensure that our development matches the long-term vision of our village and meets the needs of the people in it. I think as we look to zone, we want to attract businesses, and we want to make sure that we are providing opportunities to use our space. I think about what used to be sort of an abandoned lot over on Winnetka Avenue where the Muse condos went in. It was a great use of space. It's aesthetically pleasing. It brought a ton of new people to our community and provided opportunities for many families to live now in one of the best school districts in the state or in the country.
Thank you. Candidate Elfman.
Yeah, this is another time where it's not great being the third person. A lot of things that I agree with have already been put out there, but I will add on a little bit. One, we always got to have ease of use in our zoning process, and you don't want to make it hard for businesses to come into town. So anything we can do to ease the process there, I think is a good idea. We see other villages picking up restaurants over and over again. Why are they not coming to Northfield, right? What's holding them back? Is it the process to get through? Is it just that it's not zoned correctly in the type of areas that they view would be best for their business? That's what some of the things we have to figure out. The other side of it, I believe in mixed use, residential and some commercial, especially if you want to promote walkability in a downtown area, that's a great way to do it. obviously much bigger cities, but you look at like the Portland, Oregons of the world and some of them, they've really promoted that walkability, sustainability within a downtown area. And it transforms what those areas are like when people can live and work and shop in all the same areas. And it also helps your corridor because you have less car traffic and things like that. So agree with Matt and or candidate Gallen and Yeatus on what they said as well. But we really need to evaluate everything from top to bottom. And I think it's not just the last year. We need to always be evaluating zoning and planning, making sure that it fits the needs of the village as it goes forward.
Thank you. Candidate Yeatus, you take this next question first. And some of this might be similar. I expect I might hear the word zoning, but is it necessary to expand Northfield's tax revenue? And if so, do you have a plan to expand the tax base?
Thank you. That's a great question. One of the things that we're very fortunate in Northfield about is we are a very sound financial village. We have made wonderful decisions. We have a AAA bond rating. We expect 13.5% growth in revenue. We already have 6 months in savings, and our village is in great financial shape, and our reserves are strong. We're thankful for our current businesses, and we continue to partner and support them so that we continue to have that revenue. We want to add more businesses to help our downtown flourish. I think we also need to look at the Marianos, like we mentioned before. If we're going to, the Marianos brought in between $300,000 and $350,000 of sales tax revenue to the village. There's a potential as that changes ownership and they redo the space that it could be shuttered for up to a year, and the village would lose that source of revenue. We also look at the Tapas restaurant has left, the Mountain Chocolate has left as well. So there are ways where we can bring in some new business so we don't lose that revenue. I think the good thing is we're in a good place financially, but we do need to continue to attract new businesses to come in. And I think, we're committed to maintaining a balanced budget, ensuring, efficient resources are allocated throughout the village. We want to continue to support our fiscal policies that maintain high quality public service. We're very lucky with our school district. We have a fantastic fire department, police station, and public works, and we want to continue to promote that and support that financially. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Elfman?
Yeah, so it's an interesting thing when you start talking about your revenue coming in and how it might be affected and things like that. I'll go from this side. One, I'm glad we have a 1-year budgeting process. So we have the opportunity every single year to look through the budget and make sure that it fits the needs of the community. And at the end of the day, that everything aligns where it should. We saw that actually in the last village board meeting where there was some talk about Hap Road and whether money should be included in that project or not. And ultimately they pulled back part of the budget because of that. And I think that makes the most sense, is look at that budget every single year. But I will say in bringing in more revenue, to me, it's making it a more palatable place for businesses to come. More businesses are going to equal more tax revenue, which helps raise the budget potentially. So to me, it's more about creating incentives to bring businesses into town and then falling within your budget from there. That's the way that I think you bring more tax revenue into the village, is just encouraging more businesses to come into the village.
Thank you. You've got a few more seconds, Candidate Elfman. Would you elaborate on how you would attract, I'm sure it's not going to be money under the table.
No, I don't operate that way.
Totally a joke. Obviously, totally a joke. But give us an idea, an idea.
So there's a variety of programs that exist out there. I've worked at the federal government level for a long time on policy, and a lot of it's making sure that you line up with what federal government programs might be offered, what state level, what county level, and it's really trying to create that collaboration between all those levels. And trust me, when you're trying to put things together and you're dealing with multiple levels of government, that's terrifying in itself, right? But we can be helpful, I think, from a village standpoint of providing information for potential business owners. Here's some programs you can look into.
Sorry, time is up.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, you know what, that was my fault because I didn't warn our timekeeper she'd already had stopped your time. So thank you for that elaboration. And Candidate Gallen.
Yeah, so as they say, going third here, I'm just probably going to be repeating a lot of stuff. So I'll just add in some I guess some other stuff. But just in terms of the financial health of the village, as Andrew said, it is very strong. We have 6 months of revenue, 6 months of reserve, and we've also been able to put more into the police pension fund than even the state requires for the past couple of years. So that's just kind of a backdrop of where we are. I'd agree with what Ed said in terms of attracting new businesses, and Andrew as well, because of the sales tax that generates. And I think the magic is in the sales tax, because sales tax is paid by residents and non-residents. So if you have a very successful business, think of Mariano's, like people are coming in from other areas and they're shopping there. And those are people that don't live in the village. And so you're increasing the revenue from people outside the village. So I think the trick is, right, to get more businesses in to Northfield, because then you've got a larger revenue source, and it's ideally coming from folks that don't live in Northfield, as well as people in Northfield as well. Those are my thoughts.
Sure, thank you. Candidate Elfman, you take this question first. What green initiatives would you like to see in Northfield, and how would you engage residents to make them successful?
So we've talked about the downtown corridor quite a bit. And one thing about the downtown corridor, in my opinion, is if you like concrete and asphalt, it's for you. There is a real lack of green in that area. And I think that's the immediate place to start looking. You look through the 2040 plan, they talk about that a lot in the 2040 plan, of how to, create street walls that then have green attached to that and all of those types of things. So that's one side of it. It's just literally plants, right? Creating green that way. The other is we have things like fire trucks and ambulances and public works vehicles and other things that are up for renewal or up for changing at some point. I think we always need to be looking at the most efficient, fuel-efficient vehicles we can find, making sure that those things line up with whatever standards might be out there or what the highest standard can possibly be. That makes sense for our village. So I've driven truck before. I know what that all looks like. But you need to make sure that you have high efficiency motors and less fuel use. And green initiatives really come in a lot of different ways. Maybe is where I'm going with all this. The other side of it, from a beautification, from a literally getting plants and all that, that's where we have these advisory committees, and they can tell us what they like, what they're looking for, making sure that's the type of corridors they want to be walking in or be a part of, and then making sure that at the end of the day, it fits the long-term plan of the village.
Thank you. Candidate Gallen.
Thank you. So Go Green came to the village board, Go Green Northfield came to the village board last spring and came up with a number of proposals that it wanted to partner with the village on. I have reached out to Go Green Northfield, and I support almost all of those initiatives, and I'd like to see a number of them happen. So starting actually in a couple of days, when we're doing the budget process, I'm going to be asking for a reduction in the vehicle registration fees for pure EV cars in the village. So that was one of their recommendations. The other two things that they would like to see done are, they want to see a bunch of other things done. Two of them are to have a battery recycling receptacle in front of the village hall, and to have a styrofoam recycling program. I think where the idea was people could drop off bulk styrofoam at the Public Works, and Go Green, I think, would actually take it to the, where it needed to go. So those are a couple of the initiatives that they put forth last spring. I support those. Partnering with Go Green is definitely a priority of mine. And those are my thoughts.
Thank you. Candidate Yedis.
All right, thank you. I think both Ed and Matt have brought up some great points. In college, I was a couple classes away from being an environmental studies major. So the environment is very important to me. It was something that I think about not just on a local level, but also a global level. I think we need to continue to work on our sustainability initiatives in the village. I think partnering with Go Green is a great idea. I think Matt has a wonderful idea to follow up with them with the budget and make sure to what we can do to encourage environmental practices that are long-term sustainable for our community. I support green infrastructure, expanding our recycling and energy efficient policies. We have a great partnership with Waste Management and their recycling, and we continue to do that. I want to make sure that residents are aware of this and continue to encourage that. I want to advocate for long-term environmental planning and community partnerships. There's already organizations within our community that are working on their own to help make this a better place. We have wonderful gardening clubs in the community. We can access their talents throughout the area. But I've also seen it New Trier's Northfield campus where they added solar panels to the roof. It's been a wonderful financial decision for them. They're now reaping the benefits of that. And I think as we look to develop our downtown and our public spaces, we should look to solar lights and harnessing that energy as a way to support ourselves and make some money on the side for our village. I want to promote EV charging stations throughout the village. I think that's a way to attract business and a way for people to see that our community cares about the environment. And I think we already, do a nice job when we make decisions in zoning to make sure that we're doing things that are going to help the environment. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Gallen, you take this next question first. What specific ideas do you bring for encouraging more resident engagement in village matters?
Yeah, so I think it's something I already talked about. I think it's something we all talked about, resident committees. To me, it's a win-win. You get people involved, you identify and locate other people that may not have been involved and they become engaged, and you get a perspective that's just not the 7 people that are sitting on the board, and they go and they talk to their network. And to me, that is probably the #1 tool for to increase transparency, to increase the public trust and confidence in the village board, which I talked about earlier. I don't know that I need the 2 minutes to say that, but that's where I stand. I think it's just a powerful tool.
Thank you. Candidate Yedis?
Thank you. I think it starts with understanding the needs and listening to the needs and interests of our community. We want to promote clear, proactive communication throughout our meetings and making sure that we get newsletters out. And like I said before, encouraging people to check our social media so they're aware of the message and things going on in our community. And we want to ensure that all voices are heard, including residents not typically engaged in local governance. We saw an uptick this last year of civic engagement in our community, and I think it's wonderful. And we want to promote that. We want to push for greater accessibility in the decision-making process and get more resident input. I think we've started that with the revision of the Hap Road project with the residents that are included in that board. And I think the committee of the whole and board meetings, are already webcast. We want to make sure that our citizens are paying attention to those. There's an increased presence on social media of many organizations, but how to streamline and get that together. We also want to get more youth involved, partner with our local schools, encourage the board to create opportunities for the youth to participate in local government through internships, advisory councils, or events that cater to their needs. I think we want to continue to be create a family-friendly community with events and ensure that the village has the right amenities to attract young families. I think my experience as an educator can help connect with younger residents and get them involved in local governance. And we want to encourage civic engagement from multiple perspectives from throughout our community. We also have a wonderful opportunity with the centennial coming up this year, the 100-year celebration of our village, and a way to partner with many different organizations to celebrate our community and come together as one. And I think as we continue to partner with our residents, we want to partner with the schools, and we want everybody to be a part of Northfield.
Thank you. Candidate Elfman.
So 100% agree on advisory boards. I think that is the lifeblood of making sure that your village is involved in everything. But I'm going to talk about a couple things specifically around the advisory boards that are near and dear to me. As I mentioned at the beginning, I have a 5-year-old and a 15-month-old. From 5 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. is, I don't know if nightmare is the right word, but that is a very difficult time in a household with young children. So we need to really think on these advisory boards, what time of night are those meetings? So we can make sure people can participate. I know we have much more of a work from home environment for a lot of folks in the village. So maybe earlier in the afternoon is more doable than it used to be. But for those of us with school age children, it becomes very hard to be involved in a lot of different things if the timing is really, really hard, or you're pushing things off to your spouse to have them do it all the time. That's just not fair to them either. So that's one thing I would say is we really need to really think about what time are these advisory meetings happening, especially if we're going to ask people to be a part of them. And then frequency of meetings as well, right? It's unrealistic to have a weekly meeting at 5 o'clock in the afternoon for a lot of people. So really, that's something I think we always have to be conscious of if we want to bring more folks in. The other side of it, I know at the caucus level, we split the village into different districts based on neighborhoods and other things. I think this is key to think about. I mentioned it at one point during one of the questions I answered. We need to make sure we have residents from all the different parts of the village, whether it's north of Willow, south of Willow, east of the Edens, whatever it might be, to make sure that all those neighborhoods are properly represented on these advisory boards. If they're all from one neighborhood, it's not true representation across the village.
Thank you. Candidate Yedis, you take this, actually maybe our last question. I think so. Take this last question first. If you had a magic wand, and I'm intrigued by this because I was looking up some things like what are issues, because I have no idea what's going on in Northfield. So how should Hap Road be improved? Forget that you're going to consult with anybody else. Wave your magic wand. What's the fix?
Well, when I first heard about the roundabout, I was very excited because it would provide somewhat of an anchor for our downtown. Having taught at New Trier for 18 years and talking to colleagues, many of them would ask me, where is downtown Northfield? And I think this roundabout proposal was one idea to create an anchor for our downtown. As I learned more about it and I attended the no roundabout and the Hap Road meeting the following day, I learned of other perspectives, and my opinion changed. I learned that there's some different revisioning for the downtown, possibly a corridor. We talked about environmental needs, a way to plant more trees, make it more of a tree line canopy to beautify that area by adding some landscaping. But I think when we re-envision that, we are already working with the members of the community who are in business in that area. We have Hap Road residents are involved in that committee. We also have residents from throughout Northfield a part of that. And we're going to leverage that. And I think Matt brought it up at our last board meeting. It's very important that we give them the task to revision this, and then we support that. Because we want this to be an organic decision coming from the people in this community working together as what we can do to support them. So I think redoing Hap Road is not something that the board is tasked with. It's something that this committee will be tasked with, and the board is there to support that. And I support that approach. I think it's a wonderful revisioning, and we're back to phase one, and we'll have an opportunity to see what it looks like in the future. I'm very excited to be a part of it.
Thank you. Candidate Elfman.
I'm going to build off of what Candidate Yedis said there about the citizen committee. If I had a magic wand, I would fast forward us 2 years from now and see what that committee has come up with for ideas that we could use to revitalize the area. But there are a couple things I think that can really be looked at along that corridor. The beautification side, I'm always going to harp on that. We need to fix the sidewalks up. We need to fix the curbing. It needs to be more appealing. Having things like vegetation and nice trees and all the things that when we do landscaping at our homes we try to do to make everything look really nice, right? I think that can be that corridor, that build that downtown corridor there. The other thing is I think we need to, from a magic wand perspective, figure out traffic flow a little better as you get south on Hap Road, especially near New Trier Northfield. Making sure that that's a safe area for children to cross the road. I know it can be a little interesting there if kids are trying to walk from campus to get north on Hap. So we want to make sure that that area, if I had my magic wand, is making sure it's as safe as possible from a crosswalk standpoint, from a timed intersections, all the things that need to go in that. Maybe it's just a dedicated left turn light so people can turn left easier there. But that whole stretch through there, we need to make sure it's a safe corridor, but also brings our village together in a downtown area.
Thank you. Candidate Gallen.
Yeah, to build off of what they said, if I had a magic wand, I think the first thing I would wish for was to immediately have a new business in where Mariano's is going to be, to have the Skokie Valley Trail done, and to have the library renovation project done. Putting that aside, I firmly believe that the vision for Hap Road needs to come from the committee. So as a board member now, I don't want to, I've been very clear about not putting sort of the board's objectives onto that committee. I want that committee to be able to think inside or outside of the box as it sees fit. But if you're going to ask me one thing that I see as part of any sort of Hap Road renovation or improvement or reimagination, walkability. Walkability is near and dear to my heart. I love walking around the downtown area. I think it would be great if there was walkability across the east-west side of Hap Road to connect those businesses and to get what I'm hoping will be, after the Skokie Valley Trail and the library renovation project, a lot of people traffic down there, a lot of bike traffic, not necessarily just car traffic, and to have to have something in place where we can really connect all the businesses and allow the residents to walk around in a beautiful space.
Thank you. So now we go to our closing. We're going to do it in reverse, more or less alpha order. So each of you has 2 minutes. We'll have candidate Yedis and then Elfman and then Gallen, and then I will say a few words. So candidate Yedis, you have 2 minutes.
All right. Kathy, thank you so much. I really appreciate this opportunity, and I appreciate your time and the work that you all put in to help us. Matt and Ed, I really look forward to continuing to partner with you guys and support our community. I think my focus as a village trustee would be to preserve and enhance the unique qualities that make Northfield such a wonderful place to live, while planning thoughtfully for its future. It's important to open up communication with our residents to ensure trust and collaboration on projects and initiatives. And I'm deeply committed to the Northfield community, having worked here for 18 years and been a resident for over 10. I'm raising my family here, and I want to show them the importance of civic engagement and doing what you can to make your community a better place for all of those around you. I want to contribute meaningfully to the village's development and governance, and my experience as an educator and coach at New Trier has allowed me to engage with a wide range of community members. I believe in fostering a collaborative approach to decision-making, and I want to ensure that Northfield remains a vibrant and inclusive place to live. I look forward to working closely with residents, business owners, and village leaders to ensure Northfield thrives for future generations. I'm very proud to live in Northfield, and I want that to be the case for everyone who lives here. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Elfman.
First of all, thank you to the League of Women Voters for holding this forum. I think it's vitally important that candidates participate in these types of things to make sure that their voices are, well, basically their thoughts are heard by the public. Whether they're on the caucus slate or whether they're not, they need to be part of this process to really show leadership is 24/7 when you're part of the village board process. I also want to thank my fellow candidates for being part of this. I think it's important to have this discussion out in the open, let people know where we stand on issues. And we covered a lot of topics today, so I want to highlight a few of them. One, the downtown corridor is a real issue for Northfield going forward, and we need to make sure that we're doing everything we can to help encourage businesses to come into that area, but also help the current businesses that are there. We want to make sure that they have everything they need from the village to remain vibrant and remain part of that downtown corridor. They're vital to everything that we're doing there. Going forward, big thing for me, as I mentioned early on, I have young children. I want this to be a community that they can bike in, that they can walk around in, feel safe, feel secure, that me as a parent know that they're safe when they're going to different things. And I really want to make sure that we're all working together as a village through these advisory boards, through other processes that to push Northfield forward together into the future. And lastly, much as candidate Yedis said, I'm so glad I moved to Northfield and my family is here and we get to raise our children here. This is a unique community on the North Shore. I've always called it a hidden gem of the North Shore, and I truly believe that. I appreciate the time today for the questions. I appreciate everybody who's been watching. Looking for your support as we go forward, and please reach out if there's anything we can be helpful with from now to going into the future.
Thank you. Candidate Gallen.
Yes, thanks to the league again for organizing, and thank you to Ed and Andrew for participating. I think it was a really good dialogue we had. I think a lot of this comes down to judgment, character, and values. Who do you trust to make the right decisions, the hard decisions? Who do you trust to work with other board members to make those decisions? And who do you trust to have a thoughtful approach? This is what you need to decide when voting for the right team, and I'm offering my candidacy to help you do that. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Thanks so much, everyone. I'd like to just say a few words. So being a candidate these days is really tough, and everybody knows it. I particularly admire people who are willing to run for office. You are the people in the arena. So I want everybody at home, we can't see you, applaud in your kitchens or your bedrooms or hiding out in the bathroom or wherever you're listening from. Let's have a round of applause for the candidates who are out there. Then many, many thanks to the League of Women Voters of Winnetka-Northfield-Kenilworth and the League of Women Voters of Illinois. League members, and by the way, men can also join every League of Women Voters around the country. Really, we roll our sleeves up to do the grassroots work of democracy. So setting up this forum, getting a timekeeper, getting a webmaster, contacting the candidates, sending out the letters, answering questions about the letters, getting the letters back, soliciting questions from the community, publicity for this, posting it on the website. This is all done by League volunteers. So wherever you're watching from, a round of applause for our League volunteers. And it is a member organization. Anyone can join. We would welcome you. So look for the recording of this forum in a few days on the website of the League of Women Voters of Winnetka-Northfield-Kenilworth. Just Google it. You don't want to hear me say that link out loud. And encourage your friends to watch too. You'll be able to share it on any of your social media. Encourage folks to listen. Election Day is April 1st. Friends, do not let friends stay home on Election Day unless they voted early. Thanks, everybody.